Hi, my name is Jonathan Zemsky and I am the author of Beyond the Shadows of Summer. Before I begin reading Chapter 11, I wanted to remind you that this book is recommended for children ages 10 or 11 plus, has some themes of teen sexuality and violence, and some strong themes of loss and death, but a lot of hopeful messages and fun stuff in between. Chapter 11, Something Lost. The next day of the fair went by quickly and without major incident. Fizz continued to make Costello do all of the work, while he took frequent breaks to try and find Mamie Van Doren. So far, he had had little luck in tracking her down. Costello was still silent about his co-worker's lack of effort, and Mr. Swift remained clueless about the whole situation. Fizz timed his breaks perfectly. When Mr. Swift left to take care of some other business, Fizz knew he had 30 minutes before the speedy Swift would return. G-Man spent his afternoon break with Marie, the horse rider. They grabbed lunch in the ethnic village, an area designated for selling food items from all nations. Italian, Mexican, Greek, and Chinese were just a few of the types of food available. Personally, my taste rarely strayed from corn dogs, hamburgers, and fries. The village was secluded and provided some privacy for G-Man and Marie to enjoy their lunch, away from judging eyes. I spent most of my day trying to avoid various people. There was Black Eye and his posse, who wanted me dead, Mr. Kern, who continued to plead with me to play in the continuation of the softball game, and Paige, and I wanted to throw up on myself every time I saw her. To date, I had only spoken to her once, and was so much of an idiot to even ask her name. G-Man was still after me to give the letter back to Joe. I quickly changed the subject whenever he brought it up. Bert stopped by around noon to deliver his bizarre and confusing words of the day. I felt that I could unlock the mysteries of the world if I could only understand one thing that Bert said to me. Then there was Alex. While still strange, he seemed to have a little less snot on his shirt. Something in him changed after the softball game that had still yet to be decided. That late afternoon, only 3 days into the festivities, our bodies, minds, and bellies finally decided that they needed a break from the fair. Many of the fair employees were talking about going to the new Abbott and Costello flick at the drive-in. If it was even half as good as When They Met the Wolfman, I would be happy. We just needed a car to get to the drive-in. Since none of us were old enough to drive, we needed some luck. Luck arrived in the form of Donnie, Alex's older brother, who drove this really sweet red 52 Chevy convertible. He stopped by the stand to visit his brother, and after 10 minutes of pestering from me, Alex, and G-Man, he agreed to take us to the drive-in that night after work. Even though we would have to squish 6 of us, including Alex, into Donnie's car, it would be a welcome change from piling into Costello's dad's station wagon, so we accepted. Half the fun about going to the drive-in was scoping out all the other cars and trying to catch couples in the act of making out. This was nearly impossible in the wagon, but it would be a very easy task in the convertible. When Donnie picked us up at the end of our shift, I was beginning to feel like I was turning into an ice cream cone. Staring at the chilled delight all day long made me want to choose a new favorite snack. I guess too much of anything can be, well, too much. G-Man, who absolutely hated popcorn, vowed to get a bucket instead of ice cream at the movie. The 5 of us stood outside Donnie's convertible arguing over who should sit where. None of us wanted to be squished next to Costello or rub snotty elbows with Alex. The only way to settle this is a game of Cross the River, Costello explained. This was an elimination game we played to choose sides in sports, games, or other pressing situations like these. We usually have only 4, so we'll have to modify it, Fizz replied. We all stuck out our fists to be counted. Alex followed. Just get in the car, you dweebs, Donnie called out. Costello ignored him and began singing the Cross the River song while simultaneously tapping our fists with his. Cross the river down the stream, no way home or so it seems. Hey man, strike up the band. Hey, you hit my fist twice, Fizz complained. Oh, I'll start again. Shut up and get in the car before I kick all your asses, Donnie barked at us. Our fists dropped and we quickly jumped into the car. Donnie, Fizz, and Costello climbed into the front, while G-Man, Alex, and I took the back. Donnie looked back at his brother and then slammed on the gas. The tires squealed beneath us as we were off. The car was fast, very fast, and the wind blasting in my face made it tough to breathe. Donnie cranked up the volume, and I expected to hear some rockin' song, which would have fit well with our speed. Instead, it was Perry Como and Frank Sinatra's Young at Heart. The tenderness of the song did not seem to capture the danger of the moment. We sped out of the fairgrounds onto Lincoln Avenue, and the streetlights became a sideways blur. I wondered if Joe was going to come looking for me in his letter soon. I wondered who would be at the movie. I wondered if I was going to get there alive. Donnie hit the turn out of the town hard. We were now on the open road. Once again, the tires cried out, begging for mercy, and we were knocked back with the force of the car's acceleration. Donnie pushed the car to its limit. We sped past the cornfields like a crow wearing a jetpack. The green stalks blended together, creating the illusion of a green wall. I yelled over to Alex, "Hey, your brother always drive like this?" "Nah," he replied. I breathed a sigh of relief. "He's just playing it safe because there are new people in the car." Just as he got the last word out of his mouth, the car roared and jolted us back hard into our seats again. Faster and faster we took the highway, weaving in and out of cars. My heart was racing. A collective hum formed in our throats that grew in volume as the engine revved higher. 70 miles per hour, louder, 80 miles per hour, screaming, 90 miles per hour. Ah! Donnie jammed on the brakes and we stopped short. We raised our hands to prevent our faces from smacking into the seats in front of us. We had made it to the drive-in. We pulled up behind a few other cars waiting to pay and enter. "Thank God," I whispered to myself as I tried to catch my breath. My friends were all wide-eyed, and Costello looked like he wasn't breathing. Fizz slapped him on the back. "Thanks," he coughed. Donnie turned to us with an outstretched hand. "Money?" We all responded quickly with our quarters. He paid the attendant and we were in. The lot was especially crowded that night. Horns were honking and people were throwing stuff from car to car. Donnie pulled into a spot on the far end and approached the incline. The car rose gently until our eyes were even with the tall screen. Donnie cut the engine. The sound of silence was a welcome one, although I had to admit, Donnie's driving provided 10 minutes of the most intense excitement of my life. Donnie violently grabbed the speaker off the post. He was a mean-looking dude and a greaser to boot. He was 18 years old, tall, stocky, and had a nose that looked like it had been crunched by a hammer. He wore a white t-shirt and blue jeans and had a pack of cigarettes rolled up in his left sleeve. More grease dripped from his curly black hair than from his hot rod. He could make someone pee their shorts just by looking at them. The whole lot of us popped out of the car except Donnie. "Get me a bucket and a Coke," Donnie said to Alex as he handed him a buck. "You got it, bro," Alex replied. "Try not to walk too close to me, Pample," Fizz said to Alex after making sure we were far enough away from Donnie's earshot. "Mamie Van Doren might be here, and you're bad for my image." I blasted him a look. If I remember correctly, he made you look pretty bad on the ball field the other day. Fizz stepped in front of me. "I don't remember you playing at all. As a matter of fact, I remember you running away, probably feeling sorry for yourself." "What did you say?" Fizz had touched a nerve. "You heard me." Having no real defense, I tried to get someone else involved. "I don't have to take this from a guy who can't even fulfill his corn dog serving responsibilities. You make your friend do everything while you run around pretending you have some shot at landing a starlet like Mamie Van Doren. What a joke." Costello looked down at the ground. "And you," I said, pointing my finger at Costello. "When are you going to stand up for yourself and stop letting him walk all over you?" That's enough," G-Man yelled and stepped between us. Walk it off, guys. We've been all working under the hot sun, and it's getting to us. Obviously, to some, more than others," he added as his eyes shifted, temporarily settling on me. He told Costello and me to go ahead and meet up with them back at the car. After placing Brand's sketchbook under my left arm for safety, I got in line, grabbed a box of popcorn and a Coke, and headed outside to wait for Costello. I was fuming. I wanted to take that slingshot in Fizz's back pocket and use it to plant a boulder right into his smug face. I assumed G-Man and the others must have taken a walk to scope out the lot, because they weren't in line behind us. I reached into my popcorn box and shoveled a handful of buttery kernels into my mouth. I used my icy Coke to wash it down. I was back in control of my emotions. I couldn't believe how I'd lost my head with my friends like that, but Fizz was out of line. I just wasn't ready to play baseball yet. He knew that. It had only been a year. Only a year. Costello walked out of the stand and stopped dead in his tracks. He looked like he had just seen a ghost. "What gives, Costello?" I said. I waved my hand in front of his face. He didn't even blink. "It's him," he said with a frightened whisper as the intro music from the film began playing through the speaker of the car next to us. "Who?" I asked. Costello pointed over my shoulder, and I turned to see the black-hatted member of Black Eye's posse. He was scoping out some girl leaning into her car window as if he was taking her burger order. She was trying to ward him off by pressing her hands in his face. He just laughed it off. If he was around, then the big man was as well. We froze like a mouse on a snake's nose, hopelessly wishing that somehow our bright summer work clothes would blend into the dark surroundings. Unbelievably, it had worked. He hadn't spotted us. We ducked away and bolted for the car. The intro movie, The Keystone Cops, had started, and the music was picking up a pace a little. The cops were on the screen. They presented as calm and organized for the moment, similar to the way we did. Costello and I got close to Donnie's car, but I saw something that caused me to pull back on his arm. "It's only Mr. Curran, James. Anyway, your shift is way over. He won't mind that you're here," protested Costello. "Yeah, but if he sees me, he's going to bug me about softball," I replied. "We got to avoid him. Run!" We turned to run the other way, but only made it a few steps before we again stopped dead in our tracks. The other two posse members were walking just up ahead of us. The music in the movie sped up to match our frantic pace. From the corner of my eye, I could see the cops on the big screen, running and bubbling about, knocking into one another. We took a quick left and ducked behind a car. "We should be safe here for a minute," I said to Costello. More like a few seconds, as the car started to shake and squeak and we heard moaning coming from inside. We slowly crept our heads up to the back window. There we saw the ugliest couple in creation going at it. There were lips, tongues, and teeth everywhere. "Ugh," we said in unison. "I think I'm gonna be sick," Costello added. "Yeah, two wrongs definitely don't make a right," I replied, and we both cracked up. We slowly backed away from the car and turned, ready to run away from the horror show. All of the air in my lungs rapidly vacated as I spotted Paige and Millie walking towards us. The music from the movie had now reached a hysterical pace. I felt my heart pound in my ears. We turned again to see Black Eye walking towards us. "Ah!" We spun and ran in the opposite direction again. We faced left. "Ah!" We turned right. "Ah!" We turned around. "Oh!" A beautiful blonde dressed in a short skirt walked by. "Dinkity dogs! That was Mamie Van Doren! We gotta go tell Fizz!" I exclaimed, nearly spitting on myself as I struggled to get the words out. We finally spotted an opening and hightailed it to the car. The others still weren't back yet, and Donnie was gone too. Costello and I dove into the back seat and hunched down to make ourselves less visible. The impact shook the car and jostled the speaker loose from the window, causing it to fall to the dirt. Both it and Costello simultaneously let out a high-pitched squeal. Seconds later, Costello was plucked from the car like a grape from a vine. I quickly turned and saw the posse had a firm hold of him. Black Eye was standing just in front of them. "Get out," he commanded, and my body complied. I had nothing to defend myself, just Brand's sketchbook under my left arm. "You escaped last time, but you're not getting away this time," he sneered. "Say goodbye to your eye, my friend." Costello didn't even struggle. It was useless. One member of the posse held him as the other two grabbed and pinned my arms back. I thrashed about to try and get free, but they were too strong. Each one was a full head taller than me and twice as wide. "Let me go," I said, making one last-ditch effort. Black Eye walked up and looked directly into my left eye. "You've had this coming all week," he hissed. He circled the area on my face where he wanted to create his violent artwork. I struggled again, this time using more of my legs and flailing my arms. Brand's sketchbook fell to the ground, the impact popping it open. "Well, what do we have here?" Black Eye chuckled as he quickly scooped it up off the dirt. "Give it back!" I used every last ounce of strength I had left to pull the two posse guys forward a few inches. "Is this the Witty Bitty Babies coloring book?" Black Eye could barely contain his grin. "I said give it back!" Fury and a year of sadness both hit me and shot all of my blood into my body straight to my face. I started to cry, which I immediately knew was a really bad idea. "Here we go again," Black Eye mocked. "The Witty Bitty Baby's gonna have another tantrum. Cry it out, baby. It's time for your spanking." The posse all laughed expectantly. They knew this was gonna get good. "Cool it," said a voice from out of nowhere. "Cool it right now." The voice grew louder and more familiar. It was Bert. I didn't know what he was doing at the drive-in, but at that moment I didn't care. "Cool it or I'll get the cops in here." Just past Bert, I saw Paige looking on with Millie. Great. Any chance I had with Paige was now gone. She'll never like a coward who repeatedly cries in the face of danger. The black-hatted posse member released Costello after Black Eye gave him the signal. Black Eye took the sketchbook. "I think I'll just keep this as a souvenir until we meet again." He laughed heartily, and the posse dutifully joined in as they turned and shuffled away. "No!" I yelled as I ran toward them. Bert grabbed my arm, stopping me in my tracks. "Boy, you want to get yourself killed?" Back in Donnie's car, Costello recounted the story as I sulked with my hands over my face. "We'll get it back," G-Man said as he put his hand on my shoulder. "We'll get it back."